name is Natalie. I've been doing lay ministry for the past 10 years. Actually have some people from the diocese I grew up in, Reno, here with me today. Went to high school, town with one stoplight, and Irish-German heritage. Anybody else? Irish? Yeah, okay, we might be related. So, good. I get my Irish heritage from my great-grandpa. His name was Martin May. He came over to America in the early 1900s. And the Irish immigrants back then, potato famine devastated the Irish people. And for generations afterwards, I come from peasant stock on all sides of the family. We were always poor. And but what they did was that they would scrimp and save to send an older sibling over to America, who would then work in order to save money back for another sibling to come over. So Martin's older brother came to America, scrimped and saved, finally saved up enough. He bought a boat ticket and sent it back to Martin, who was a teenager at the time. And I can't really imagine putting myself in my great-grandpa's shoes, that he's a teenager, saying goodbye to his family possibly for the last time, packing up and heading to a train station in the middle of nowhere, Ireland, where, and just imagining what it must have been like to sit at that train station, saying goodbye to your family, knowing that you'll never see them again, the excitement, the nervousness, all this that's going on, and waiting for that train. And in Martin's case, waiting for that train. And waiting for that train. When the train finally showed up and brought him to the port where the boat was going to take him to America, it was so late, the boat had left without him. Oh, it's like, can you imagine? It'd be awful. A teenager, you're stuck in this port city. I don't think they had refunds back then. Like, and they're poor. Like, where are they going? This was a devastating event for Mr. Martin May. The funny thing is that we actually have a picture of the boat that was supposed to take him over. So it's super cool. It's a beautiful boat. I might be able to zoom in on the name a little bit closer. Yeah, my great-grandpa came this close to being third-class steerage Irish male. Most likely, I wouldn't be here today if that train hadn't been late. He would have gone down with the Titanic. Wow. And it's something that has really, that family legend has really sunk deep into my heart, especially as a teenager. And just thinking that when something difficult is going on, or something terrible is going on, maybe God's will is going on in here. And there's he wants something greater to start happening. And I started thinking about that because right now, the American Catholic Church is in a bit of a difficult situation. Between 2007 and 2014, we lost 3.1% of our American Catholic population. It's about 3 million people. And I know for a lot of us, those are my brothers, literally my siblings, my brothers and sisters, my cousins, people's children, your grandchildren. 3 million isn't just a number, because I bet all of you have people in your heads right now these are people that we love. And it's easy to look at this as a tragedy, but I also think it's also too, like, what a beautiful opportunity to start taking a step back and asking, Lord, like, what is your will in here? Where are things going off? What is your will right now? And honestly, what I'm about to share with you is not a great idea in ministry. It is an extremely simple idea in ministry. And a little bit too about what I'm doing is that I'm founding a nonprofit to minister to Catholic lay ministers. As part of that, I've been on the road since July, traveling all across the country, meeting lay ministers, taking you to coffee because you need it, and asking questions about your ministries, hearing about things that are going. I've met awesome people, heard amazing stories, and have noticed some significant trends. And it makes me want to go to this book. It's called The Soul of the Apostolate. If you haven't read it, it's awesome. And in this book, there's an analogy about ministers, because he's writing to ministers, priests in particular, but how we can be captains of a boat. And we're just so excited about how fast our boat is going. I mean, we poured on the heat in the engines, like all the passengers are cheering. They're like, you're a rock star, look how fast you're going. And like the wind's blowing your hair around. You got the Pantene hair commercial thing going on. So it's awesome. Our boat is going so fast, and you go up and finally you turn to your navigator and you're like, dude, look how fast this boat is going. And our navigator, who is God, says, yeah, in the wrong direction. And that like really hit me really hard, because a lot of these lay ministers, as awesome, as wonderful as we are, we're so busy. We see that people are not coming to our youth groups. We see these people are not even coming to Christmas or Easter season anymore. We have 5 job descriptions that we're running. We're so busy that we're not taking the time to go back and pray and be with Jesus. And ironically, I thought about this with the Titanic. You know, the Titanic actually crashed into that iceberg because the captain was going too fast. He was trying to set a record. And he ignored warnings that there were icebergs ahead at a really severe cost. And here's the thing, is that as lay ecclesial ministers, we have the great privilege and responsibility to act as extensions of the pastoral ministry arms of the church. You and the decisions that you make actually do impact the lives and the eternities, which I would argue are more important, of countless people. The decisions that you make are very important. You must turn to our navigator, and we must start asking him, what is your will? Not my will, not my pastor's will. God, what is your will? And the only way that happens is through prayer. Now, here's some difficult things, is because, again, God has chosen you to go do this. You have been chosen. And I want to share a little bit now too, is because right now you're at an awesome, great ideas and ministry panel. These people have excellent ideas for ministry. We are also surrounded by excellent workshops and an amazing expo with literally thousands of great ideas. And honestly, it's kind of like, this might be a little weird, but kind of like in this great big Catholic shower together. We're just being like being pinged with like a million ideas. It's great. And we're going to like jump out of this and just be like, oh, I feel so invigorated. Like, this is awesome. It's so going to go out. But there's this interesting, because I like to study business. And in business, they say that there's a difference between like going to a conference and being inundated with tons and tons of ideas, and then taking the equivalent of a hot bath. Like being able to sit back, and instead of being pinged by all these wonderful, excellent ideas, you need to take a step back, go to someplace quiet, and start saying, of the thousands of excellent ideas, which one is yours, Jesus? Which one is yours? So go to a quiet place after this conference. Find quiet time to go and pray and talk to your boss about his will for ministry. And that's my idea, because talking to a lot of lay ministers, a lot of priests and everything, we do not have normative time set aside for staff prayer. A lot of you have families. You're very, very busy. And I would argue that, because I've literally talked to over 100 lay people and lay ministries across this country, I can count on the fingers of one hand how many staffs are actually taking time to pray together as a team. Almost nobody is doing this. The ones that are, explosive growth. Explosive. So here's my suggestion. You need a spiritual director. Whether you're praying, find a spiritual director. I would argue that paid time. This should be paid time, half an hour to an hour of staff prayer a day. I would argue that as lay ministers, you should have 2 yearly retreats, and that one of them should be an unreasonable amount of time, 8 days, and the other one should be 4 days, perhaps a staff retreat. Paid time that's not considered vacation time, it should be paid time. You're a spiritual leader, you need to talk to your boss. And same thing with your volunteers. A lot of you are leaders. You need to make sure that your volunteers are praying as well. If you're too busy to pray because you're trying to plan out your staff meetings, and I've been there, I know it's like you're trying to rush through everything, then you're too busy. If you're too busy to pray, you're too busy. Take 20 minutes, at least 40 minutes, to pray with your team and these staff meetings. Give them a yearly volunteer retreat every weekend to make sure they're also plugged in with spiritual director for 2 reasons. 2 reasons why this is important. Again, this is not your ministry, it's his ministry. And lastly, I think this is more important, it's because you matter. As lay ministers, your hearts and your spirituality matters. And God wants to heal your hearts. He wants to remind you that you're loved. And you need time to spend with him to do that. Thank you.